Let me tell you guys something you already agree with. Superheroes are cool. People that save others, people that are willing to go through self-sacrifice, to persevere through all the odds and pull through and save the day. And before you guys even lie to me and say you don't like superheroes, I have proof. I myself actually started out liking superheroes first and foremost even before getting into anime and manga. I would remember early in the morning my mom would leave me Spider-Man comics to read while eating breakfast before going to school, and that happened consistently and the rest was history. However, I noticed lately that the people that are into superhero stuff or Western comics in general don't tend to like things like anime and manga and vice versa, which is a damn shame because I believe both have strengths and weaknesses, whether that's in art style, panel composition, or just straight up storytelling. And on top of that, both sides sometimes even take inspiration from the other. Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Boondocks, hell, even Teen Titans are things that seem to be heavily inspired by anime, two of which were originally comics. And if you look at something like Trigun, you can see some heavy Western influences. Naito, the creator of Trigun, ended up creating Kekkai Sensen, or Blood Blockade Battlefront as it's called in English, takes place in New York, and as someone that actually lives there, it perfectly encapsulates the hustle and bustle of this crazy, crazy city. But then you'll see something like One Punch Man that really goes into the superhero thing. And yes, I'm aware that One Punch Man was inspired by Anpan Man, but that was inspired by superheroes as well. There's also My Hero Academia that heavily uses the superhero genre. It goes into superhero names, hero costumes, gadgets, super special moves, super villains, etc, etc. And hey, if you really like the superhero thing and the manga aesthetic and storytelling, then I'd highly suggest My Hero Academia. Me personally, well, I wasn't the biggest fan, but goddamn is the art for this manga good, and the artist for this manga is Kouhei Horikoshi. Kouhei Horikoshi is a Japanese manga artist that is mostly known for his work My Hero Academia, but he has worked on other manga for Weekly Shonen Jump, such as Omaga Doki Zoo in 2011 and Barrage in the following year. If you go further back, you can also find that he has done some one-shots such as Tenko, Shinka Rhapsody, and My Hero. And if it wasn't already obvious, My Hero would later become My Hero Academia, and it's plain to see that Jack Midoriya was sort of an initial design of what would later become Izuku Midoriya, well, one of many initial designs. And fun fact, even before creating his own work, he was the former assistant for Yasuki Tanaka, the creator of the manga series Summertime Rendering. It's funny because if you zoom out enough, you can sort of see the many manga artists that are some way, one way or another, connected. Anyway, since My Hero Academia had finally ended, I thought now would be a good time to look at his inked work and his colored work while going on and on about the things I found interesting about his style. Okay, I think I can speak for everyone when I say Horikoshi's inked work is one of the best artwork of this time. I honestly put him up there with Yusuke Murata, and that guy's artwork is already pretty insane. Looking through the grapevine, it does seem that he goes between working traditionally and digitally. And you can even find videos on YouTube in which he sketches and inks traditionally, then proceeds to color digitally, but I'll get into that in his colored work later. Right out of the gate, his overall art style is just nice on the eyes. It's an anime art style for sure, but it has a certain softness and sort of whimsical nature about it at times. Looking at some of the character profiles, you can already tell in terms of proportion, the main cast of characters are drawn around 5 heads tall and overall with typical distortions you see in anime. The nose and lips are simplified and sharp, and the eyes are large on the face, and so on and so forth. But just because his art style can be described as, I guess, simple, it doesn't mean that he can't have a lot of detail in his work. This panel in chapter 314 has this very cool shot in which a group of kids goes out to shake Lady Nagant's hand. The juxtaposition between how cute, cartoony, and simplified the kids are drawn and how this bloody outstretched hand is drawn is a testament to how skilled Horikoshi is. And on top of that, his character designs in general are pretty damn unique. He honestly doesn't suffer from same face syndrome like a lot of artists do. We have characters that are pretty standard when it comes to the typical high school setting, but then there are the mutants, or at least that is the quirk type that identifies what these type of characters are. Since these characters have a passively active quirk, they will have very unique character traits that are atypical to the generic human character designs. We have characters like Mina Ashido, Mashira Oji, Koji Koda, Mezo Shoji, Fumikage Tokuyama, etc, etc. But then we also have characters like Mirio Togata, who doesn't have a mutant quirk type, but is just drawn differently. There have been many jokes made of him looking like Tintin, and he does, which is honestly the beauty of his art style, I guess. You can have these two characters coexisting in the same series, despite him looking like he got ripped right out of a comic that came out in 1929, which leads to my next point. One thing that anyone will notice when you start reading My Hero Academia is that All Might is rendered in a very distinct way, and anyone that has read even a small amount of comics will realize that he's rendered in a very Western style. He is drawn with very bold line art, lots of contrast, and a lot of cross-hatching. If you look at comic book artist Jim Lee, you can sort of see a lot of parallels, like in this piece of Batman. The reason for this is likely because All Might is heavily based on a very American idea of what a superhero is like, and speaking of American superheroes, you can even see this reflected in the way Star and Stripes is rendered. And yes, I know her real name is Kathleen Bate, but I don't feel like calling her that the same way I'm not gonna call All Might Toshinori Yagi. It just feels weird. Anyway, Star and Stripe is also drawn in a very American way. Like, similar to Mirio, she doesn't even look like she belongs in this manga. Not that it's a bad thing. In fact, I wish we got more of her in this manga. Too bad she died the moment she got introduced. Anyway, similar to Mirio, that's the beauty of this art style. These two different styles can coexist without seeming to be completely off. Another cool way he uses a particular way of rendering in coordination with a character design is with Shigaraki. Early when he makes his debut in the series, he already has a pretty interesting design. The motif with the hands all over his body screams the villain, and leaving his face covered by one of those hands does make him a bit uneasy, since you don't know what expression he could be making. It's sort of the reason why masks in general can be so creepy. However, when Horikoshi finally decides to draw his face for all of us to see, he goes into crazy detail. You know those moments in SpongeBob where it just goes super close up and has a lot of unnecessary details? Well, Shigaraki gets his own shot, and it really shows off that if Horikoshi wants to, he can have levels of detail rivaling some other manga artists that are known for that high level of draftsmanship. But there's one more thing that's done with Shigaraki that I absolutely love. Later on in the story, he goes through an awakening, and the way it's shown to the reader is how his hair is rendered from here on out. Instead of the intense amount of details it was drawn with before, now it's the exact opposite. There will only be the white space to show indication of hair, but other than that, no other details besides maybe a slightly second darker tone. Also, I said this earlier, but look how cool this panel is. Hell, I think the villains in general just have so much better designs and iconic looks. But on that note, I do like the intricate designs Horikoshi puts in for the hero costumes as well. It complements the characters and the quirks very, very well. And I know throughout this video I've been saying about the American or Western way of doing things, but another point to add on to that are the sound effects. Throughout this manga, you'll find instances of Horikoshi using comic book style sound effects, like in scenes where Baku uses his quirk, or in scenes where someone's moving very fast, or when someone makes a heavy impact on the ground, or just a powerful strike in general. And for this next point, while it's not really a sound effect, whenever Midoriya All Might gets ready to do a named signature attack, it will always be written in that bold comic sound effect font, particularly the word smash. It's that little detail that really enhances the impact. Although when things get a bit too serious, Horikoshi will not add the comic book sound effects because while it's a unique artistic choice, it could come off a bit goofy and comical. Looking at his colored work, I can say that there are about 3 types of rendering he does. Early in My Hero Academia, you could plainly see that he colors his work digitally. As I said before, there was a YouTube video showing him doing so. There is simply no way someone could get these colors as bright as they are with very sharp edges using a traditional medium, at least as far as I can tell. This cell shading style of rendering is used for the majority of the early parts of My Hero Academia. For example, in this piece, the lights and shadows are separated by hard edges. Hell, All Might doesn't even have any shading, and I think that's because these types of color pages are paralleling how issues in comics are printed with the number issued on the top left and the barcode on the bottom right. I know I keep mentioning this in this video, but My Hero is heavily inspired by Western comics. And again, both comics and manga can learn from each other. Anyway, this is how he initially renders from most of his art at the beginning. But around chapter 146, you could sort of notice that he has switched to a traditional medium to color his work. His illustrations don't have the harsh edges anymore, and they have a much smoother style of shading. You can even see a slight texture in his work. Typically, manga artists that color their work traditionally uses Copic markers, and because of that, you're able to see the fibers on the paper and the illustrations. One thing I could point out in particular that has changed with this medium is how he colors Midoriya's hair. His hair color is green, but you can see that it's usually colored with a lot of black being the darker tone and a slight green being the lighter tone, or the highlights of his hair. However, when he switched over to the traditional medium, he now colors his hair with a lot more various green tones and shades. I honestly prefer this method because it gives his hair a bit more of a 3-dimensional feeling, and it's just a lot more interesting to look at. Now after that, it seems he has gone back to digitally coloring his work, but now he completely discards his self-shading method for a more softer painting method. I really love this method he uses to paint. Similar to when he colored traditionally, it gives much more 3-dimensionality with things like Midoriya's hair, or even Bakugo's. If you look at his early color work and his color work towards the end, you are able to see how different it is. And aside from how he renders, let's just zoom out with all of his colored work for a second and just look at how well he draws an ensemble cast of characters. I do personally think My Hero Academia sort of suffers from character bloat because honestly, to this day, I still don't know what pertinence this character has to the story, but despite that, I do love Horikoshi's skill in fitting all these characters all on one page. Sometimes I just want to look for certain characters to see if they got included in the illustration. Overall, it goes without saying, but Kouhei Horikoshi is a damn amazing artist. I personally don't like the story of My Hero Academia that much, but I stay tuned every week just to admire the artwork. This might be a hot take, but I can honestly say compared to Gege Akutami, Yuki Tabata, and other manga artists that were around at the time, Horikoshi honestly stands at the top for me. His ink work and his color work are just amazing. He has a Twitter that you could go follow if you want to see some of his sketches, and Christ, now that he's no longer working for My Hero Academia and has all the time in the world to draw, just look at how he renders some of these illustrations. These are honestly next level. He doesn't rely solely on line art to color and paints on some of the details straight onto the illustration. Other than Twitter, he doesn't seem to have any other outlets of social media. If you do want to support him, you can always get the My Hero Academia manga, which is complete, and surprisingly, he doesn't have any art books yet. Although I can imagine that when the My Hero Academia anime finishes, we may just get one, and I hope so because I do stand by that his art is one of the best in the game. Hello YouTube, it has been a while since my last video. It hasn't been the longest time I've been absent, but it has been almost a month or over a month by the time I upload this video. For the guys that don't know or didn't see the post that I made, my Apple Pencil had broke, therefore I couldn't do any art videos in a long while. However, recently I did purchase a new one, so I'm back to doing some art stuff. Yay! Yeah, My Hero Academia, it's finished. I know a lot of people didn't like the ending. I did not like the manga. I guess not like is a strong phrase. I just didn't care for it. It was sort of boring for me. Therefore, the ending, no matter what it was, it wouldn't have appealed to me no matter what. I just personally really like the art style. Therefore, Horikoshi was always going to be an artist I would look at. I just sort of wanted to wait till the My Hero Academia manga finished so I could get, like, you know, the full scope of his work. Yeah, I don't know who I'm going to look at next. Maybe video game artists, probably video game artists or concept artists, or maybe, I don't know. I'll see when I cross that bridge. I do want to upload some more art stuff. Lately, the art community has been crazy with a lot of things lately. I've been seeing two particular topics that I might talk about, or three particular topics actually, that I want to sort of talk about and put my own input on. But let's just say, again, the art community is pretty crazy on YouTube. But yeah, either way, I still want to talk about those things. Thank you guys for watching this video. For the people that get to this point of this video, like the video. Liking the video, I think, does something with the algorithm. I'm not sure. Please let me know if liking actually does something. Comment nice things, comment bad things, comment random things. I read all the comments no matter what. But subscribing is the coolest thing you could do. I love it when the number goes up. I know the number of subscribers don't really dictate like my earnings or anything, but I do like seeing that number go up. It is quite a rush. My social medias, follow them if you want. My Twitter, my Twitch. I am itching to start streaming on Twitch soon. I'm feeling the urge, so the Twitch is going to be used. My Instagram, and support my Patreon. I am posting exclusive stuff there. I'm posting exclusive time lapses, rendering, process videos, sketches. I'm going to be doing all that stuff. Again, now that I have my Apple Pencil, I'm feeling the juices, the creative juices flow out. And I want to be able to post more videos, and just in terms of art in general on YouTube. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.